Welcome. Come on in. It's Thursday and it's happy hour. Home happy hour to be exact, so grab a drink and let's get started. Hi everybody, it's Claire Paris with the Paris Group Realty LLC in Portland, Oregon. And today we're asking the question, what happens when I inherit a property through a will or a trust? What do I do? It's a very complicated issue, and if you happen to be the executor or the executrix, I think is the way it's termed, you're going to really want to talk to an attorney, and it's very typical to have an attorney to talk to about all of the issues. If you and your partner or your siblings or even the grandchildren, it can be super complicated. Let's separate it into two different categories. So there's a will, and then there's a trust. Those are two very different things. A will just is a statement saying, hey, I, Claire Paris, give this house to these 4 people. A trust is like its own entity that goes on after you have passed and has specific instructions as to how it's supposed to operate. So I've seen trusts where you don't have to sell the property. It's well funded, and so the trust just continues to live on. You can rent out the property, people can live there, you can save it for minors, they might grow up to inherit it. It can be much more hard to understand, but easier to do exactly what you want. A will is very simple, very straightforward, but has to be resolved once the person's passed. So first, call an attorney. Second, figure out who's involved and sit down and talk to them. I know this sounds crazy, but it's really important because not only is there the financial aspect, but there's the grief and the loss. And when people have lost someone, they get a little crazy, understandably so. They're overwhelmed by emotion and they're not thinking straight. So in my instance, my father passed away and my little brother really wanted to keep his house. And so even though it was a good financial decision for us to sell it immediately, we waited 6 months for my brother to really process his emotions and figure out what he was thinking and eventually figure out that he didn't actually want to live there. But it took him time to do that. And so having the funds in that bank account to be able to pay the mortgage or figure out what you're both or all of you want is really, really important. And then sometimes people are not going to be happy. So if you can't work it out, there's another option. You could have one of the people who wanted to stay in the house buy everyone else out. It's a little complicated, but it should be relatively easy, at least from a loan standpoint, because they've got enough invested in that property that they should be able to get a loan to pay everybody else off and still have plenty of equity in the property. That being said, sometimes people can't qualify for the loan or they are resentful that they have to get a loan at that value because, you know, when mom and dad bought the house, it was $20,000. Now it's worth $500,000 and we're not okay with that. So then the last possible option is that it goes to the courts and then the courts will decide how things shake out. Most of the time they're going to sell the property and liquidate it and give the assets to everyone as it was laid out to be split. But this is a really complicated process and also a complicated issue. I'd just say sit down and talk to everybody. Try to be vulnerable and approach it in a heartfelt way, and you can't go wrong. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you on our Home Happy Hour series, and I would love to see you next week. Take care.